stop. Lay low. Keep quiet. Don't move, don't breathe, stay still. Listen. The moment you hear the gunshots get closer, it's time to get up. Remain low. Go in between two thick walls, preferably corridors, and stay down. Avoid eye contact with everyone. Keep quiet. Listen. If the shots are getting closer, start praying. If they're getting further and further away, you might be lucky. Stay down and wait. This, unfortunately, was the ritual that I was accustomed to every single time I would go back home to my home country, Cameroon, which has been in civil war for the past 7 years. And as soon as we are done waiting in between corridors, we get up, we don't talk about it, because the moment you talk about it, you recognize that it actually happened. And if you don't talk about it, then it never did happen. So you get up, you switch on the TV, you sit on the couch, and you carry on like nothing just happened, even though you heard over 100 gunshots, and you don't know who was actually targeted. Currently, as I speak, there are 56 ongoing conflicts all over the world, which is a greater number than what happened during World War II. Therefore, meaning we are in World War III. 92 countries are involved. In fact, let's make that 93, because South Africa's gender-based violence statistics puts it as a country that is going through war. 50,000 people killed in the first 4 months of this year. And if it carries on in that trajectory, it will be the largest number since 1994 during the Rwandan genocide. War is brutal. It's gut-wrenching. It's thrilling. But it doesn't only affect families. It doesn't only take away childhood from children. It also affects the economy. With $19.1 trillion in 2023, that's 13.5% of the global GDP lost to war. And now I know what you're thinking, Elma, why on Women's Day are you taking us through this deep, depressing dive when the theme is what's next? Well, unfortunately, I hate to inform you, but war is next. We are living in an age where there are so many crises going on around the world that it would be naive for us to ignore that they're happening because we live on the southern tip of Africa. And I know what you're thinking, every time we watch movies, they never target South Africa. We always make it out alive, right? Whenever there's bombings, it never comes here. It stops by the north. But if I could just quote from the pro-Nazi pastor who used to say, "First they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not communist. And then they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists. I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. They came for the Jews. I didn't speak out because I wasn't a Jew. And then they came for me. And there was no one else left to speak for me." And this is to give us a rude awakening that if war is on its way, we need to get ready for it. We need to start preparing ourselves. Rwanda, Palestine, Ukraine, Russia, Israel, Cameroon, as I mentioned, Congo, Sudan, Ethiopia, so many countries and so much more riddled with war, with one thing in common. Their leaders are men. And I know what you're thinking in the room. That's the conclusion you've come to? Yes. Yes, it is the conclusion I've come to. That every single country currently in war is led by a man. And so, Elma, what are you suggesting? That women are going to save the world? Yes. That's exactly what I'm suggesting. And so when I was thinking, what do you title a TED Talk that is about war and disease? I came up with this final title that I'd like to talk to you about, which says, World War III, Her Fight, Her Peace. And I want you to think about that image of the American woman who holds up her fist, and at the top it says, we can do it. I want you to cross out that can and say, we have to do it, because it is up to us. And so for a statement to be true, for me to make a statement like women are going to save the world, it needs to match the 3 questions test. of any statement that is supposed to be fact. Number one, does it have historical evidence? Number two, does it have scientific evidence? Number three, can it be tested? So join me as we go on a journey to discover if the statement I have just made is either fact or very wrong. Our first stop is going to be in 2000, when the United Nations passed a resolution called 1325, a resolution inclusion for women at all levels of decision-making in peace and security. This took in 2000, just the other day. Let me tell you what happened before 2000. Flash photography was there. We already had the World Wide Web. LinkedIn was already operational. There were lots of things that had happened before 2000, but only in 2000 did we recognize that, yes, women, you can now take part in peace, regulations, and more. So let's look at some historical figures who have participated in ending wars, starting with Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, Liberia's first female, in fact, Africa's first female president in 2005. She literally led a country out of civil war. She brought instability, she brought in hope, and she rebuilt infrastructure, which is something that male leaders struggle to do in a crisis of war. Once the war is won, they're done. No rebuilding happens. It's up to you and I. Our next stop is in Kenya, where we look at Wangari Maathai, a woman who used sustainable development to fight war, literally forests. She was able to use sustainable development, like I said, to address social and political stability, democracy, and peace in her nation of Kenya. Then we move over to Mozambique, and we have Graça Machel, as we all know very well, a children's rights activist who, post the conflict reconstruction and post-Mozambique civil war, was able to rebuild the country and assist all the children who lived within it. We're still going. We stopped there by Uganda, a lady by the name of Betty Bigombe, who was a political activist and a leader who was able to take two conflicting parties and put them down in one room and start a conversation of mediation tactics. This happened again in the early 2000s, as that was the only time it was legal for us. And then we know about Malala Yousafzai, an advocate for girls' rights and girls' education in Palestine, who almost lost her life fighting for what she believed in. And as we celebrate Women's Day here in South Africa, we remember the likes of Charlotte Maxeke, Lillian Ngoyi, and what they did for us to be able to enjoy the rights that we so freely do. And this is just in Africa. What I'm trying to say here is, for the longest time, we have heard about the incredible achievements of women. We hear about it on a daily basis. Women, top scientists. Women, investigate something that has never been done before. Women, creates new technology, etc., etc. Yet we constantly need to still justify that we are qualified enough to hold the positions that we do. I think about President Jacinta Ardern of New Zealand, who managed the COVID-19 pandemic better than any other president. And now she's chilling. Love it for her. I think about Chancellor Angela Merkel, one of the only councillors in the EU history who was able to manage the refugee crisis and open the doors and say, we recognize what we did in your nations, so yes, you can definitely come over to our nations. Today, the headlines, devastating. What's happening with refugees in the EU under male leadership. We think about Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie and how she transformed and redesigned feminism in an African context. The list goes on and on. I don't need to tell you. You know that there is historical evidence that backs the fact that women are brilliant leaders and get the job done. Next up, scientific evidence. All right, I'm not a science student, so let's go on this journey together. Starts from the brain. Have you ever been told that you're so emotional? You take things so personally, like it's a negative. Why are you not emotional? Are you a robot? And so if we recognize that females have a greater volume, and I'm going to read this because I don't want to get it wrong in case someone in the audience is a scientist and calls me up later and says that was incorrect, but we have a greater volume in the prefrontal cortex, rather. in the temporal cortex, in the lateral cortex, in insula, and many other things that we figure out. But what this means to us is that we have a role of a function of a brain that allows us to make executive decisions, that allows us to focus. You hear about multitasking and that we're the only ones who can do it? It's scientific. We're not just saying it because it sounds nice. We genuinely have the brain function to multitask. I'm sorry, we didn't. We were born with it. The ability to have self-control, the ability to give judgment, to be organized, to plan, to have impulse control. I don't know about you, but if we are going to war, I want to have a leader who has impulse control, who won't say, let me flex the bombs that we have with the other countries to show them our muscles like the two big guys are currently doing at the top, because they lack impulse control. The other part of the brain, which is very specialized, I call it our superpowers. It's called specialized brain cells, mirror neurons. Now, what this allows us to do as women is, have you ever seen women talk without saying a single word? When we just look at each other and we're like, and we all understand. They can't do that. Only we can. We have the brain function that allows us to literally communicate without talking. Using body language alone, we are able to look at someone and judge them on their character, and more often than not, we are right. Which is why when our moms look at our friends and they say, that one, I don't trust. Even if they've never met her, they look at her from a distance. And I promise you now, you can all agree, it always works out that that one was not the one. That is a superpower. A superpower that for so long we have tried to push under the rugs and under the covers, because we have been told to survive in the corporate world, we must leave the emotions outside. We must leave the multitasking outside. Stop judging people. Women are so judgmental. We've been told these things, and so we've left what makes us women outside of the door, and we are starting to just be a replica of men. And it's not cute. Historical evidence, scientific evidence. And the last way to test if the fact is true is, can it be tested? And that's where I want to draw this talk to a close, which feels very short. I feel like we're just getting to know each other. But I want to challenge every single one of you to test out female leadership. Test it out just to prove me wrong. The next time you go into organizations, let it not be us questioning the female who sits at the top, saying that she's so bossy, I don't like the way she dresses and talks. Let us not be the ones walking within the corridors, gossiping about each other and saying, see how short her skirt was. Let us not be the ones who are bringing fellow women down, because World War III is upon us and we need to let them lead. And so I challenge you to test this theory, because if we can test it, then we'll know that we're starting to get ready and we're starting to be equipped for what is next. And so I've shared with you my story about war. And the thing with war is you can never talk about it until you've experienced it. There's nothing quite like it. But what you can be ready for is, war's not here yet. We can prepare for it by allowing women to lead. By allowing women to lead, we will save the world. Thank you.